What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics. I would stay tuned because I've got a video that could potentially help you make thousands of dollars with comics. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So this is a little different from the videos that I normally make because most people know that I tend to focus on copper, bronze, silver, golden age books, a little bit older books. If those are what you like, I still recommend sticking with this because if you come across these, you could end up using these to buy some of those more expensive copper, bronze, silver, golden age books. So what I'm talking about here are what you call modern variants or modern grails. And these are these modern books that sell for just huge amounts of money. A lot more than I think most people that are these older collectors realize that they actually sell for. And I know some people look down on those books and all that kind of thing, but there are different kinds of collectors everywhere. Just because you like one type of book doesn't mean that everybody else likes that type of book. And there are people that like to collect the modern books, there are people who like to collect the older books. And so having that knowledge about these modern keys as well can be really helpful if you're flipping through long boxes and you come across one of these, because they can be worth huge amounts of money. And I have definitely heard of other collectors that have done that, that have been going through long boxes just at a shop and come across one of these, picked one up for a few bucks and then flipped it for thousands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 10 of these modern ghost variants or grail books and go over some details on the books, pictures, so that if you're ever flipping through books, maybe it'll light up in your memory and you'll see that book and you go, oh, I remember, that's that book. I need to make sure I pick that one up. And I'm going to start from the least expensive to the most expensive. This definitely is not an exhaustive list. There are a lot of these books out there that go for anywhere from $500 to $800, but some of these go for way more than that. So I'm going to go over 10 that I often think of when I think of these variants. And like I've said, I tend to focus a lot more on the older books, but I do like to make sure that I at least have these pictures in my mind so that if I do ever see them, I know what I'm looking at. So let's get started. Let's start with number 10. I just picked this one because this is one that gets you in that little bit more affordable range, and it's still shows you how much these variants can go for. And this is Black Widow number 6. This is the J. Scott Campbell variant, and this was a 1 in 15 retailer incentive. This is from 2010. You'll actually find that most of these books are in the range from 2009 to 2012 because that's when there was a much lower demand for comic books. And so these higher number retailer incentives, they're pretty rare, and certain cover artists just tend to have a lot more demand for them. And this is one of them. J. Scott Campbell, he is most famous for drawing women, and so these covers like this one feature Black Widow, and there's a lot of demand for these books. So this one in a 9/8, the record price was $680, current price around $600. There are 126 total copies on the census with 74 in a 9/8. And I have that as both universal and signed because they're both kind of like a universal grade, it's just one of them is signed. And that's often what you'll find with most of these. Most of these on the census have around 100 to 200 copies. And these are the types of books that you could easily find just flipping through a long box at a shop and come across it. And if you know what you're looking at, then you might have $500, $600, $700 just sitting there. All right, now number 9. I just think this is a cool cover. This is Deadpool number 45. This was actually from 2015. I believe this is the only one that's outside of that 2009 to 2012 range. This is the Skottie Young variant called Run the Jewels. And so what this is, it's a symbol where you've got Deadpool's hand, which is supposed to simulate a gun, and then the other person handing over their chain like this is a stick up. This was a 1 in 50 retailer incentive. Record price, this is the first one here we're talking about that gets over $1,000. Record price was $1,000. Current price about $950. Total census is 238 with 84 in a 9/8. This one probably a little bit tougher to get in that high grade because of that mostly black cover, but this is just a really cool cover and it has been getting more popular. And a lot of these books like this generally have been trending up. I believe that $1,000 sale actually happened this year. And so they're having big sales. These modern variants are getting a lot of attention, and you can see that is why people like to go after these variants. They hope that that variant that they're buying will become one of these books. The difference is that during this time period, there were a lot less of them. And so you don't have quite as many, and that rarity does tend to have, I think, a little more impact on the price. All right, now number 8, we've got J. Scott Campbell again. He makes an appearance on this list quite a few times. This is Amazing Spider-Man Presents Black Cat number 1. This is from 2010 as well. And you can see, again, J. Scott Campbell drawing the attractive women on the covers. This is just really what he is mostly known for. This was a 1 in 25 retailer incentive. The record price for this one, $1,701, with the current price at approximately $1,600. So this is what I'm talking about here. If you come across a book like this and you know what you're looking for, you've got a potential book that's $1,500, $1,600, even in the lower grades. And when I say lower grades for a modern book, I'm saying 9.6, 9.4. You still got a book that's worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And yeah, you may not want that book, but somebody's going to want that book. And so you can use that book, flip it, use that to pick up something else that you really want. But this one, total copies on the census, 182, with just 111 as 9/8, either universal or signed. So again, J. Scott Campbell, he's going to make an appearance on here multiple times, but this is just another one of those classic covers from him, real popular. Obviously, Black Cat is a very popular character, and so that helps drive the demand for this book. All right, so now number 7 on the list. This actually isn't a variant cover. This isn't some type of retailer incentive, but this is a modern book that commands quite a bit of money that I think you would have a pretty good chance of coming across. So this is Eminem and Punisher Kill You, and it's not numbered. It's just an NN if you look that up, which means non-numbered or not numbered. It's from 2009. And like I said, this wasn't a ratio variant for anything. This was an insert, a comic that was part of the June 2009 XXL magazine. Now, its record price in a 9.8 was $2,000, which is approximately the current price. This is a book that goes for about $2,000 in a 9.8. Total census, just 93 with 30 in a 9.8. Now, the important thing with this one is that you may not actually even know that you're seeing this book, because this was, like I said, an insert in this magazine. And so if you're flipping through long boxes or you're flipping through stacks of magazines at a store, this isn't what you're going to see. There are 2 covers to this magazine that you might see. So I'll throw up the 2 different covers that you might see for this. So if you see this cover or the other cover that I'm going to show, that's what you would be likely looking for, what you would likely see as the magazine, and then when you open it, you would find this on the inside. Now, I've never actually had this book. I have never had it in hand, so I don't know how it was attached to the magazine. I'm guessing that could be a reason why it's a little tougher to get a 9.8. If there's anything that was used to attach it to the magazine, maybe that caused some damage. This is one that may have quite a few out there. It's just that people don't know that they need to look for that magazine, because these magazines were printed in pretty large numbers. So that's definitely something that you could potentially come across in a variety of different types of shops that you may not even realize. If you see that one, make sure you pick it up and flip to the inside and look for this comic, because this commands a serious amount of money. All right, now number 6, this is a cover that you might actually recognize. This is a pretty popular cover. This is X-23 number 1, again from 2010, and this is the Dell'Otto variant. This is this great X-23 cover. This is the 1 in 25 retailer incentive. Record price $2,500, with the current price going for around $2,300. And the grades right below that, 9.6, 9.4, they go for a lot of money too, easily over $1,000. So this is one that if you come across this book, it has a ton of value to it. But there are a few more on the census of this one. There are a total of 233, with 132 as the 9.8. Now, this character's tie to Wolverine definitely increases the popularity of this book. Also the fact that a lot of people think we might be seeing X-23 at some point in the MCU. Now, one other thing to note is that this is the 1 in 25, but there is also a 1 in 75 Djurdjevic variant. Now, this is one that I've honestly never even seen before. I've seen the Dell'Otto variant quite a few times come up for sale, but the Djurdjevic I have not seen come up for sale. I would say the Dell'Otto is actually the more popular book. I think, I personally like that cover a lot more than the 1 in 75, but It does actually sell for quite a bit. It sells for about $4,500. That is the current record, and there are way less on the census. Only 28 copies on the census, 16 as universal or signed 9/8. So I think, honestly, if you were lucky enough to come across one of these books, I feel like the one that you're more likely to find sitting in a long box or some type of box at a shop is the Djurdjevic variant, because so many people recognize the Dell'Otto variant that I could see that one getting grabbed. But this other one, just because it's so uncommon, if you happen to come across it, someone might not really know what they're looking at. So I think that's a potential thing to really be aware of that, because honestly, before I made this video, I didn't know that one in 75 even existed. And so that's now something that you can just, if you have that in your memory, if you ever see that one come up, you know what you're looking at, and you're looking at a book that is worth thousands of dollars. All right, now number 5. I think this is a really cool one. We're coming back to J. Scott Campbell with this one. This is Siege number 3. This is again from 2010. You've got this Deadpool Campbell cover, and of course you've got the women on the cover as well with this one. Now this wasn't a ratio variant. This was different. This was this special promotion that Marvel was doing, where they had you send in the retailer send in 50 covers of the DC's current Blackest Night storyline. And so they had specific covers from that storyline that they had you send in. And these were kind of controversial because basically they were saying, destroy these books to get this other book. And so this one was kind of a funny one, because to get a Marvel book, they were having you destroy DC books. And so obviously this probably wasn't done by a lot of dealers and makes this book pretty rare. And so this one has a massive price to it. The record, $4,995 for a 9/8, with the current price at $4,100. So this is a big book. This is a very expensive book. This is one that is getting up near the top for these modern variant Grail Ghost type books. Total on the census, 136, 80 in a 9/8. So this is a big one, definitely one that if you ever come across this, you struck some serious gold with this book, because this one has a ton of value. All right, now number 4. This may be one that you've seen as well. I was actually shocked how much this book is actually going for now. I didn't realize it was this expensive now. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 678. This is the Venomized Mary Jane cover. And so this was a 1 in 50 retailer incentive. Record price, $6,800. With the current price, I'm kind of guessing on this one at $6,500, because there hasn't been a 9/8 sale for about 6 months. Total on the census, 207 with 43 and a 9/8. I mean, we're talking big money now. I mean, when you're talking $6,000, $7,000 for one of these books, that can be used to get something, if you're into Silver Age, Bronze Age books, that kind of thing. You can get some pretty big books with $6,000. So definitely a book to keep an eye out for, because that has a ton of value to it. It's kind of a fun cover. It's got a modification of her doing a quote from that Amazing Spider-Man 42, where she says, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." And she says, "Face it, Tiger, you just lost the jackpot." So just a little play on that Amazing Spider-Man 42. All right, number 3. This is the first one that gets us up about to that 5-figure mark for one of these books. This is Wolverine number 1, but volume 3. This is from 2010. Again, the Campbell variant. This one actually doesn't have any women on it. This one has Wolverine. It's either Wolverine dressed up as Deadpool, or it's Deadpool has claws. I don't know which one it is. But this was very similar to that Siege number 3. This was one where the retailer had to send in 50 covers. In this one, it was 50 covers that were provided in a very specified list to the retailer. So again, one of those controversies where they were having to destroy other books in order to get this book. Record price on this book, just under the $10,000 mark at $9,995. I've got the current price at $7,000. But that's tough to say, because there hasn't been a sale for about a year. So it could break that $10,000 mark now, or it could go for less. So I'm being a little conservative on the value of this one, but this is a huge book. Number 3 on this list in terms of the price, and definitely one that, man, if you ever come across this book, just make sure you burn this one into your memory, because this one is worth a ton in any condition. Even if you get it in a lower grade and a mid grade, you've got multiple thousands of dollars for this book. And that's the thing with a lot of these, they're so uncommon, and they're ones that there are those collectors out there that really want those modern Grail variants. They would potentially take it in any condition and pay a lot of money for it. All right, now number 2, we've got Campbell again. He's made up 5 of the issues on this list. This is Uncanny X-Men number 510 from 2009. This is the Campbell partial sketch variant. So the important thing to know with this one is that there is also a full color version of this. And so it's kind of, I think, got a orangish pink background where everything is colored in. That one is worth maybe around $500, $400 to $500 in a 9/8. Whereas this one, record price, $12,500, with the current price going for around $9,500. This one had a very limited distribution. It was at least thought to only having been given out at the 2009 Heroes Con and San Diego Comic Con. And so there are not very many of these out there, but this is one of the books that I've heard from another collector that this is one that they found flipping through a long box. And they, I believe, were the ones that sold it for around that $12,000 mark. And so that's something that if you have that knowledge, if you know what you're looking for and you see something like that, you have just hit gold. But if you don't know what you're looking for, you could be flipping past something, and people for years probably flipped past it and didn't really think anything of it. And so that's why it can just be so important to just be able to at least recognize the covers. Not necessarily knowing what issue it is, the ratio variant, that kind of thing, but knowing that cover can really help. So this one, total census, this is where we've got some pretty low numbers, just 52 copies on the census, with only 22 in a 9/8. So this one has a very low count compared to any of the other books that I've talked about so far. I think it's the lowest one total on this list, even lower than number 1. So this is a big book. Ever come across this, worth a ton in any condition. Just remember that there is the colored in version as well that doesn't have anywhere near this type of value. All right, now number 1. This was actually the one that I posted the picture of on my Instagram page when this sale happened, and is what had some people make some comments that caused me to end up making this video. This one is Amazing Spider-Man, number 667 from 2011. This is the Dell'Otto 1 in 100 retailer incentive variant. This book is the most expensive modern book. There is no book out there that has sold for more than this that I am aware of. Even the Ultimate Fallout 4 Djurdjevic variant sold for less than this book. And they sold in the same auction. I believe it sold for about $41,000. This one sold for $43,200. That was the record that happened very recently, so I've got that as the current price. Total census, just 65, so there are a couple more than that in X-Men 510. And 23 9/8. This one is extremely rare. There are thought to be less than 200 total copies in circulation. There is something to be aware of. There are some other ones out there that look very similar. There is, at least I've found, an Italian variant and a Mexican variant. They look a little different. They're the same art, but they don't have that trade dress on the bottom. And so those ones I think might still have a little value, but they're nothing like this book. And so that's where you just need to be aware of those so that somebody doesn't try to pass one of those books off as this one. And this really is the book that is considered the king of the modern variants. And even when I posted that picture, a lot of people that commented on my page had never heard of this book before. They weren't aware of that. And that just tells you that it could easily be a book that somebody could happen to see in some box when they're flipping through and not realize that they just passed a book that's worth the same amount as like a 3.5 Amazing Fantasy 15. And so that's something to really think about. I know a lot of the people that watch my channel that are really into the older books, they kind of don't like this kind of stuff, but this is why it's important to branch out and understand what other areas of the hobby there are, what other collectors like to go after, because there are some big books, some expensive books out there that you might not even realize are out there. Because that was the other thing I focused on with this. None of these are keys. There is nothing key about any one of these issues. That's why I didn't pick the Ultimate Fallout 4 variant or the Edge of Spider-Verse 2 variant, because those books, yeah, they're variants, but they have that demand already because they're first appearance of Miles Morales, first appearance of Spider-Gwen. They have some other big key aspect to them. But these books, they are expensive, just because of their ratio or their rarity and their cover art, and that is it. And so to me, that's what really separates these apart and just shows that is what is driving the value of these books. So like I said, I only covered 10 issues here. There are definitely other variants, other modern variants that have a lot of value to them. There are some resources out there that are good places to check for details on that if you want to try to look up and learn more of those covers. I think really the best source that's out there is called automatic.comics. They've got a ton of great information about the rarity of all kinds of books. It's not just variants. That's where you can find rarity of things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1, getting the print counts, that kind of information for those other rare books. But it's also a resource that's really good for these variants because they give you pictures and details and everything about them. So definitely recommend checking out that site if you are interested in learning about any of these other variants that are out there. So I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new. Maybe when you're flipping through a long box, you end up coming across one of these. Make sure if that's ever happened to you or you do have that happen, reach out to me, let me know in the comments. Again, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to see some of my other videos, and the subscription button right here. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.